"We want a Jewish genocide," was echoed. In the quad in front of Royce Hall, the place where I took my doctoral hood, had students of all backgrounds chanting for a Jewish genocide. Mayim Bialik is a very intelligent person, all right? She knows that she can fact check. She knows that we can fact check the things she says and puts out there online. What she said in that video was blatant misinformation. So if I could say three things to Mayim, it would be: one, most rational people aren't blaming all Jewish people for Israel's actions. Certainly not those kids in that video. Two, the biggest threat of anti-Semitism is not being carried forward by Palestinians. It's being carried forward by white Christian nationalists. Three, you do not get to come up here and spread misinformation and take away our credibility. You know a thing or two about brain cells. Put them to good use.
What is a ceasefire? A temporary suspension of fighting or a truce. A ceasefire tends to cover the entire geographical area in which the war is being waged. The United Nations Security Council is struggling to agree on whether to impose a ceasefire or a humanitarian pause to allow aid to flow to the Gaza Strip. This comes largely because of political differences among members. Veto is the constitutional right to reject a decision or proposal made by a lawmaking body. The United States called for a humanitarian pause, but Russia and China vetoed this resolution and called for a ceasefire. Russia proposed a ceasefire twice, which the United Kingdom and the US vetoed. The US has used its veto power at least 34 times over the years to block UN Security Council resolutions that were critical of Israel. There is also a cessation of hostilities. It enables parties to break from fighting as a step to talking and perhaps moving towards a sustained ceasefire. As for a truce, it may come and go with no formal negotiations during a conflict. It can enable activities like the removal of the wounded or burial of the dead. It is understood that opposing forces should not change positions while a truce is in force. There are also days of tranquility. This is a mechanism that would grant medics and other personnel access to war zones on specific days. It is used by UNICEF to ensure that children have access to healthcare during conflict. The UN General Assembly adopted a non-binding resolution. Non-binding is a resolution, referendum, or recommendation that is not legally necessary to obey or follow. The adopted resolution calls for an immediate, durable, and sustained humanitarian truce, leading to a cessation of hostilities, and firmly rejects any attempts at the forced transfer of the Palestinian civilian population. The non-binding resolution resulted in 120 votes for, 12 against, and 45 abstentions.
Today I learned that Israel told the United States in 2008 that it was keeping Gaza on the brink of collapse while avoiding humanitarian crisis. As in, they were deliberately doing all the things they were doing to the Palestinians on purpose to keep them down. And as a part of this, Israel researched the minimum amount of calories that they would be able to give Gaza to keep them from dying of malnutrition, aligning with their goals of keeping the Palestinians on the brink of a crisis, but never tipping over the edge. Israel's control of food going into Gaza is very strange. At one point, they had a list of foods that were banned and foods that were permitted to go into Gaza. And by the way, the reason we know about this is because WikiLeaks published the diplomatic cables between Israel and the United States. And we were able to find out about the calorie research because of a Freedom of Information request submitted and awarded to us by the Supreme Court. This should tell you everything you need to know about what Israel's goals are with the Palestinians. This is absolutely horrible, disgusting, heartbreaking. Purposely keep Palestinians in the Gaza Strip on the edge of destruction to keep them down.
that are pro-Israel is continuing to embarrass themselves. You might remember that Jamie Lee Curtis posted a picture that I was in. Right after showing her support for Israel, she was sharing about how Sami activists were protesting against an ongoing human rights violation against the Sami people of Fosniarke. I was in one of the pictures and I said, take my name out of your mouth. One thing is sharing about the Sami struggle to pretend that you are against colonialism. This situation made me very upset, but I'm so much more upset right now. People that support Israel are literally editing pictures of me to make it look like I'm on their side. And I have received multiple pictures like this. That's me. This is literally taken from this picture on my Instagram. They really said, what if we just flip it? I don't know, maybe it's because I have a white face, but I'm still indigenous. That makes them feel that it would be good to have me on their side. When committing genocide based in supremacy. I'm not your guy. And I am not proof that people that look like me are indigenous. The Israeli government is stealing land. They're colonizers. No matter what we look like, as indigenous people, we know the consequences of colonization. And I will never, ever, 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 ever support it. So get my name and get my face out of your propaganda. Free Palestine.
The Gaza Ministry of Education has said that the school year is over because too many children have died and there are not enough to hold classes. Let that really sink in for a second. Just how many children have had their lives stripped of them. Just what that devastation means. Don't ask about the condemnation of Hamas. Don't ask or bring up 40 beheaded babies that we have no evidence of. Don't even bring up the hostages that the Israeli government is acting like they don't even want back. This is the crisis. This is a genocide. This is a whole generation of children. Those children you said you all care so deeply about, gone. A whole lifetime's worth of children. We have let Palestine down in the worst way possible, and nothing we ever do is going to fix this amount of devastation. But it is exactly why we have to continue to fight. We have to continue to fight for the living and fight for all of the children that they have left. May their souls and their families someday know peace.
You may be wondering why people are using the watermelon as a sign of Palestinian solidarity, and here's why. Red, white, green, and black are the colors of the Palestinian flag. In 1967, the apartheid state banned the usage of Palestinian flags in public settings. Palestinians resorted to carrying slices of watermelons to protest to, again, represent their flag. In the 1980s, the Israeli occupational forces closed down an art exhibit in Ramallah because 3 artists used the watermelon as a sign of resistance. The watermelon became such a symbol of resistance for Palestinians. It was then that the Israeli government started saying, we will ban anyone showing Palestinian flags or watermelons.
Hey cuties, it's time for another episode of
Actually, it is about race.
And today we're talking about
He struggles to lift the weight, but I got watermelon to keep me in shape.
That's right, we're talking watermelons. How exactly did they become a black stereotype? So watermelons actually originate from northern Africa before making their way through Asia, Europe, and eventually the United States. They were also one of the only fruits that slaves were allowed to grow. And once slavery ended, watermelon became a symbol of freedom and independence for black people as they were selling them to make a living, as well as enjoying them in freedom with their friends. And white people couldn't stand this, and thus began the famous watermelon smear campaign, which used film, cartoons, advertisement, and even music to disparage watermelon as a treat for simple-minded, lazy black people.
This is an important PSA that applies to almost every single content creator that I know right now. If you have had any posts in the last week wrongfully removed or suppressed or in violation of community guidelines with no further explanation about what that means or why, Human Rights Watch wants to know about it. They are trying to document and prove that there is systemic action being taken by these social media platforms to suppress pro-Palestine voices. All you have to do is take a screenshot of the notification saying that your content was in violation and a screenshot of the original content that you shared. Email those screenshots to Rasha Yunez at the email address here. It does say that they're focusing primarily on meta platforms like Instagram and Facebook, but it does say any social media platform. Myself and other creators have noticed that Instagram is actually doing a lot better than this platform. This platform has been absolutely out of control. I am very happy to see that someone is actually doing something to document this.
The whole world is watching Gaza. People are being kicked out of their homes in the West Bank. 200 people within a village in the West Bank were kicked out of their homes to the point that they had to run on their feet with their sheep and goats. For those who don't know, the West Bank is actually Palestinian territory, so these people are being led away from their homes. According to AFP, there were a dozen Israeli settlers that came in with the protection of the IDF and police, and they pretty much gave those people an hour to evacuate their homes. So the next time someone tells you that Israel's problem is with hummus, please remember these types of situations, because the West Bank is not controlled by hummus.
At 12 a.m. They dropped white phosphorus. I'm walking while carrying a wet cloth so I can wash my nose and my eyes, because they dropped white phosphorus. I saw it, I heard the voice, the sound, I heard everything. And by the way, they're using new weapons on us. They're trying new weapons on us. We did not use to all these types. We, as experienced in the bombing, know some weapons, know some bombs, know some war plans, but these all are new. They are used tonight, especially tonight. And there are news that the Israeli army are now inside Gaza, on ground, from Beit Hanun city in the north, and from Brej refugee camp in the east. And this is another crime. This is a war crime. This is against international law. This is against everything, as the occupation itself is. But they are committing more and more crimes in the dark without anybody to notice anything.
People need to hear. They need to hear from you guys. You know, they need to hear. You can talk. What do you want people understand?
I'm gonna cry.
Talk in Arabic and we can translate. Talk in Arabic. She's gonna cry.
I hope American people, they can understand what's going on in Gaza City, because most of American people, they're not educated and they don't know there is a Palestinian people live there in Palestine. We always, they tell us like, oh, Israel. It's not Israel, it is Palestine too. We have three different people live in Palestine. Jewish, Christian, Muslims. You know, I'm Christian, I live in Gaza City. They said we fight with Hamas, but not people live in Gaza, they are all Hamas. We live also Christian, not all Muslim Hamas too. You know, they are part, they are just a group of the whole people live in Gaza City. Please stop what they're doing. I wanted my family to keep alive. I have 7 members of my family, my sister, my dad, my mom. I have no connection with them. They cut everything. I keep calling them 3 days ago. I don't know if they're still alive or no. My mom, she's sick. She can't walk. She needs medicine. She needs food. Last time I called them, they told us we eat just 1 meal a day. 1 meal. There's no beds to sleep. No electricity, no medicine, nothing. They're gonna die right now because there is no food. Not because the war, because no food to feed them. Please, please, all the world. We need to listen from all the world about Gaza to stop the war. Everybody, no like war. Please, please. We are with the peace. We need peace. We don't want a war. Please. Please, we are Palestinian, we are human, we are human. We are not like animals, we are human. We just need peace. We all love everybody. We live in this country for 2015. We live here and we love all the people we work with, American, Filipino, Mexican. We all love each other. You know, we never have any problem with anybody here. And we need to please save our family, please. We need help. We need help. Help, please. Thank you.
This is an image of a leaflet that was spread by Israeli army-backed settlers, threatening the lives of every single Palestinian person. While over 2 million Palestinians living in Gaza are under incessant bombardment by US-backed Israeli airstrikes, millions more of Palestinians who are living in what is today called the West Bank and 1948 territories are facing intensifying threats by the Israeli occupation forces and government-backed settler violence. This is a screenshot from a video of Ben-Gvir, who is the National Security Minister of Israel, distributing assault rifles to those same settlers who are threatening the ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people living in the occupied West Bank. Israel is also bombing areas within the West Bank, such as this mosque in Jenin, and Palestinians living both in occupied Palestinian territories as well as 1948 territories, are facing disciplinary action for posting or liking or sharing anything on social media related to expressing their solidarity with their own people in Gaza. And here we have Israelis chanting "Death to Arabs" directed at students who are seeking refuge in their own colleges from this settler violence. It's also worth noting that there are over 10,000 Palestinians, men, women, and children, all ages and genders mattering equally, who have been kidnapped and subsequently detained by Israeli occupation forces without charge, trial, or adequate legal representation. The most important takeaway you should have from all of this is that this has been going on for the past 75 years. We are not making this up. This language you're looking at on the screen right here is echoing the intent and execution of genocide by Israel since 1948. I wish I could say that everything I'm pointing to is fringe behavior, but it's not. Most urgently, we are demanding a ceasefire, that Palestinians living in Gaza can bury over the 8,000 people that have been massacred since October 7th alone, almost half of those being children. As we're working to that, don't forget to contextualize the last 75 years along with what's going on in all of Palestine today. This state-sanctioned violence isn't just harmful to the people but to the land. The burning down and destruction of olive groves is common practice by Israeli occupation forces. Palestinians living in the West Bank are being shot dead in the streets, both adults and children, unarmed. This man Bilal, who was shot dead by a settler while picking olives, is actually from Nablus, my ancestral homeland. This should hurt for everybody, even if you have no connection to Palestine at all. It's just one of hundreds since October 7th alone that have been massacred in cold blood. The crime of being Palestinian. As I'm sure you've noticed, the bar is in hell. So yes, a ceasefire is of utmost priority, ending the siege, ending the occupation, and of course Palestinian liberation.